Hey y'all, Grown Black Folks Talk, back out on the climb of church and community. Now, I'm doing this video on a Saturday afternoon, but it will appear on the internet on Sunday morning. And of course, on Sunday morning, here's what I'm going to be doing. Today, I will be at El Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, and while I'm at El Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, I will be singing spirituals and leading a whole choir of little children, whoever the Lord sends, on time, because they all know you didn't come to rehearsal, you need to be on time if you're over a certain age. But then again, my dad's like, well, they can't drive themselves. Yeah, I know. But we have been working on an a cappella spiritual, so I don't want to put anybody on the spot who really isn't ready to do that. But that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow morning when you see this video. And I made this video in church and community because in previous generations, this was basically all we needed, because it's all we had. So in my grandmother's time, church was so much more important because literally everything had to come from the church. The reality about most black churches today for black women and children, even if we assume that this is still correct, and a lot of us are disappointed just because we assume that, and no, it's not safe to assume that. I have to give credit to Madam Whip-Ass. That is the name of her channel, because y'all know I don't generally cuss, but that's the name of her channel. I have to credit her the way she wishes to be credited. She pointed out once and made a word out of it that many pastors, because like I said in my previous video, they are trained looking at the model of the oppressor. Passer rhymes with massa, doesn't it? A lot of churches don't have pastors, they have pastors. And in all fairness, they also have a whole bunch of black women who want to be a mistress of the same mind. So you have a whole bunch of women fighting to be under pastor in every way that he can be under, and sometimes willing to sacrifice the children in order to maintain their position. That's going on in a lot of churches. If you keep up with news in the black community, you already know that. Neither your boys nor your girls are safe in a church like that. You're not, your kids aren't either. And as I've said before, if you're not careful, your son grows up watching so-called man of God be an oppressor. And I did a long video about how Constantine became Pontifex Maximus, and the first Antichrist, replacing Christ as high priest over his people, and therefore made all the Roman abominations done to human beings something that, quote unquote, a Christian man could do. So most of these men are trying to be Constantine. They're not trying to be like Christ. Forget that. Whole lot of pastors are trying to be like Thomas Jefferson with a pulpit and doing what was done to Sally Hemings on the side. By the way, Sally Hemings was 14 when it started, a child, by today's standards. So you wonder why Eddie Long be sizing up boys, allegedly, at 14. That's when it starts. Not even grown. I was watching some history on the time of Henry VIII and how many 12-year-old girls are giving birth for these kings. Never even had a chance in life. If you follow classical music and you follow opera, there are some remarkable cases of, if you go back and you do the real stories that they're based on, you're like, he's 56-ish. She's 14. Oh my gosh. Well, that's what that culture does. And this is why you have men in the manosphere trying to do everything but be illegal and hosting. I'm going to put this out there. The lead attorney hosted Glendon Richardson talking about being a pedophile. That's why that happens. They're modeling themselves. They're trying to be kings and priests after the horrible manner that Constantine and the Romans and the Greeks and the Norse taught them how to be. They're not interested in being Christ men and taking care of the flock. Oh no, that's trite. Many of your churches, buildings are headed by this. And see, the thing about it is, given long enough, Lord Jesus Christ will move your lampstand from a church like that. But in the meantime, what you have been told as a Christian, if you do count yourself as one, is, come out from among them and be ye separate, and I will receive you as sons and daughters, saith the Lord. It's down in 1 Corinthians. I can't remember where it is at the moment. I forgot to look it up before I came out here. But if you Google that, come out from among them and be ye separate, you'll find it. It was said in the Old Testament, come out from among her, talking about Babylon, that you receive none of her plagues. Well, if you go to your church and people are doing everything but, just understand what you're supposed to do as a black woman is leave. In my church, the men do not interfere with what the black women are doing. Dr. Desi Webster's picture is up on the wall with all the other ministers since she taught a whole bunch of those. Quiet as it's kept. She was my grandmother's Bible teacher, so I'm her great-grand student, and I continue her work with the children. Sister Minnie Ruth Jackson was over the child evangelism, wife of D. Manning Jackson, Dr. D. Manning Jackson, who set up the El Bethel Arms. Well, in order for the El Bethel Arms to be what it is today, Sister Minnie Ruth had to have a student who was going to be able to be the secretary. So she made me secretary at 9 years old. Sister Henrietta Horace said, you're going to be a great choir director, even though no one around you was encouraging because everybody got their own agenda. But I'm telling you what you're going to be. And by the way, I'm 86 and I'm ready to record my first album and I need you. Sister Henrietta Horace helped make me who I am today. And the men at El Bethel do not interfere because you got men from the pulpit, two associate. You have a pastor and an associate minister who will both tell you, hey, the black woman's been a backbone of the black community. It is what it is. You got a black man in the pulpit who'll be like, no, black men are not living as long because we did not know how to treat our blessings and the Lord has taken us out for how we've mistreated and abused our women. Pastor McNeil is the type of man that the women get together for the women's ministry. All he did was drop off a carrot cake and some pizza had his hat and his suit and everything on, drop that off and walk right out and said, y'all do what you do. I approve. And walk right out. Not that we necessarily needed his approval, but the beautiful thing that he was doing, well, actually, technically, because he is the pastor of the church, yes. But in terms of, he didn't have to sit there and micromanage it. And of course, black women get together on Mondays and do the other things they need to do. Which brings me to the next thing I really need to talk to you about. But let me finish this thought first. If you're in a church where the men feel like they need to sit on top of the women, you're in a dictatorship. Everybody talk about, well, the United States is not a dictatorship. No, the United States was an oligarchy of collected dictators committing crimes against humanity every day from the founding. That's reality. And the powerful men in the country would like to turn it back to that. It is what it is. Many of the oligarchies in the black community are the black church. That's just a fact. I'm not in a church like that when you see me today. I would not be in a church like that. Thankfully, because of the legacy Dr. D. Manning Jackson left of empowering they already had power. I know I'm going to hear from Constance Love if I don't correct this. They already had power of not interfering with his wife and the other women who were looking out for more of the women and the children while he was doing all the building and so forth to make sure they had places to stay. We stayed on that legacy, and that's why we're not a plantation church. I wouldn't be in a plantation church. El Bethel is pretty much the only church around me that I do business with right now. Because it's just like, I got to vet you now as a whole church. But like I said, then as black women, you need to get together and do something on Monday because church isn't open every day in a community town like mine. Which brings me to Project U. I'm a black church woman in a good church, and I'm telling you, El Bethel can't do everything in terms of my security, strategy, and self-care. El Bethel didn't teach me about Bitcoin. I'm trying to teach El Bethel about Bitcoin. And the different members talk about, well, I want to talk about, I'm like, I'm sitting here in the back of my mind going, I told you about this a year ago. I told you about this a year ago. But that's okay. We do things at the rate that we do things. It's okay. Because that's not where I go for that. We as black women have to have places to go that we can learn the things we need to learn in addition to learning the scripture. God does never said, only oppressors say that you only have the right to read the Bible. I was listening, like I said, to some history about the time of Henry VIII, how they took a young man and only allowed him to read the Bible in his imprisonment. And of course he went mad. The Bible is sufficient for all things of life and godliness, but you probably need to learn how to read a bus stop. You probably need to learn how to read not a stop, but a schedule and a train schedule. You better be able to know how to read a road sign if you have to get down the Underground Railroad. You better be able to know how to do all the things that go with you doing your own business, working with your own hands. You're going to have to know all those things. Moses had all the learning of the Egyptians in addition to what he learned from the Lord in 40 years in the desert. Paul was one of the most educated men, and even though Jesus was a carpenter, by the time he was 12, he amazed the great teachers of Israel with what he knew. So much so that by the time Nicodemus comes along in John 3, they've sent someone to be like, how? He's a carpenter. Well, of course, he's also God. So that's part of why he knows. But he educated his disciples himself. And then snatched up Paul and put him in the desert for 3 years to get his head on straight. He does not expect you to be unlearned in everything that you need to know to make a life for yourself in this society. So it is okay as a Christian person for you to come to Project U and learn things you need to know to be able to secure yourself A strong man armed keeps his house. That's what the Bible actually says. But if strong man's not there, please go see Jael and Esther. And if you read the Apocrypha, Judith. You need to know what strategy. You're going to need to know about systems like Notion. You're going to have wonderful speaker Leslie is going to be on talking about Notion and how you occupy yourself and how you put things together to work in a 21st century environment. You're going to need to have a safety prompt engineer like True Mystique come through and teach you how AI can be used for your good instead of against you, instead of being afraid of it. You're going to need me to come tell you about crypto so that every 4 years you can get this money. And that this year you can get some of it. You're not too late yet. You're going to need these things. You're going to need to learn how to take care of yourself, to manage your emotions, to manage your feelings, to be able to handle the overwhelming emotions that come with the grief that we often face as institution after institution and person after person fails us. To be able to give ourselves good experiences. Me being out here is part of my self-care. I've just decided to bring you along because I can. But me having time to be in the sunshine and be in the park is very important to me. It's part of what I do to stay healthy. You have a right to find your own strategies. You have a right to do things that help you take care of you, to make you feel good, to pamper your body and your spirit. You have a right to do all those things, and those things are not sinful in and of themselves. Not all of them are. There's nothing sinful about having worked all week and taking a walk. There's nothing sinful about setting up your schedule so that you get your walk in the middle of the day. Y'all see me out here at 2:13 on Tuesdays. There's nothing sinful about being able to use your time to take care of the mind, the body, and the soul that God gave you. And that's what we're going to be teaching you about. It's good if you're in a good church to go to church and fellowship with the believers. It's good to do that. It's commanded to do that. But you don't have to be anywhere on a Sunday. I know people that go to Bible studies during the week and would not therefore have to be bothered. I know people that are still doing bedside Baptists, and I have a little church in Germany. And I'm not flying over there every week. I use the internet, so I get double fellowship when I want it in 2 languages. Nobody said you had to go be up under some man in a black church in a old building and do this. That's not what God requires. But while you are doing fellowship with the believers, you also can find ways to sit down with black women and work on your life in this world, and you can do it in a holy way. Because that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm going to present to you in Project U. In the description of this video, you will find a link to a ticket price. We have a standard ticket price, and we have a standard, and we have one where you can buy for the premium and get the replays. Let's say you wanted to see something again, or you weren't able to make it to the live. Well, no, you were able to make it to the live, but you wanted to see something again. We have a ticket that includes replays. We also, for those who cannot do either one, will be at some point afterwards making the replays available as well. So there's a ticket. But if you want to kind of catch the vibe of what the speakers and the experts coming to Project U will be doing, you're welcome also to go through the screening process for the Project U Discord. The link for that will be in the description as well. All right. Y'all have a good day. At this point, probably what's going on by the time most of you see this is that probably a whole bunch of black kids are up here talking about, I got to shout, you got to shout, all God's children got to shout. But remember now, everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. I'm teaching them to understand what they're looking at with these Constantine wannabes in black and white. That's what I'm going to be doing. I hope that you're enjoying your day whenever you see this also. Hope to see you in the Project U Discord and at Project U. All right. Y'all have a good day now. Goodbye. Oh, you know what? The sun is so bright. I got to find the stop button. There we go.